All right, so we're going to do some Hansen and Quinn Unit 8 exercises. We're going to do 1 through 10, and these concentrate mostly on participles. Number 1, let's see if I get my pointer here. Tous gerontas lipusai, heikomen sumpantas, tous retoras, tous keklofotas doron grapsomenai. All right, so let's start with the main verb. It's a first person plural, present active indicative, heikomen. But remember that heiko has, when it has present forms, it has perfect meaning. So we're going to translate this, we have arrived. And now here is a nominative plural feminine, second aorist active participle, lipusai. So that's going to agree with the subject of heikomen. So having left, we arrived. Or we who left or have arrived. We who left the old men have arrived. And now grapsomenai. Well, that's another feminine nominative plural participle. And it's future middle. Remember that the middle of grapho can mean indict, in which case it could take an accusative of the person we're indicting. That's right there, accusative plural. And also maybe this genitive of the charge here. Remember, it could also have an accusative, like a cognate accusative like graphane. But we don't have that here. All right. So we have arrived. We who left the old man, we have arrived intending to indict quite all the retors. The retors having stolen. Okay, that's the perfect active participle, masculine accusative plural, agreeing with the retors. Okay, so now we just have to deal with this doron, this genitive of the charge, intending to indict them for bribery, on a charge of bribery. Remember that the plural of doron can mean bribe. So to put it all together, we who left the old men have arrived, intending to indict quite all the retors, the ones who have stolen, for bribery. Number 2. Thusian agagomen theois tois Athenaius in ekene temache sosasin. Hopos kainun athelose pantes hoi theoi ten demokratian fulaten. All right, so here the main verb is going to be agagomen. Now, agagomen is a second aorist subjunctive, first person plural. I think it's got to be a hortatory subjunctive. So let's lead a sacrifice to gods, for gods. The ones, and now this all goes together. The ones, and now sosasin is an aorist active participle, dative plural masculine, agreeing with theois. The ones who saved the Athenians in that battle. So let's lead a sacrifice for the gods. For gods, the ones who saved the Athenians in that battle. And now we have hopos and athelose. Athelose is a present active subjunctive. So I think what we have here is a purpose clause in primary sequence. In order that all the gods even now may wish to be guarding the democracy. Number 3. Angelus pempseon hate protoi lusontes tenge ereinen. So pempseon is third person plural aorist active subjunctive. And that's did I say subjunctive? I meant optative. Third person plural aorist active optative. And it's an independent use of the optative. It's got to be an optative or an optative of wish, even though it doesn't have atha or agar, which optative of wish sometimes does. So may they send. I hope that they send messengers. And now, lusantas is nominative plural masculine aorist active participle. And I think it agrees with the subject of pempseon. And note, it's a circumstantial participle. It's not an attributive position, and it's got hata with it, so it means it's a causal participle, and I as speaker vouch for the cause. So, put it all together. May they send messengers, because having first destroyed the peace at any rate, since they first destroyed the peace at any rate. Number 4. Ekenoi hoi kakoi hoi ton agathon te kaisophon didaskalon esthanaton agagontes plabeson taitoi hupoton theon hoia iskra pratontes. Now with this one, Blabesontai is the main verb. And note that it's future passive indicative. And its subject is here. Ekenoi hoi kakoi. Those bad guys. And then more about them. We have a second aorist active participle in attributive position. Those bad guys, the ones having led, the ones who led the good and wise teacher to death. So ton agathon to kaisophon didaskalon is the direct object of the participle agagontas. So, those bad guys, the ones who led the good and wise teacher to death, will be harmed, let me tell you, by the gods. And then here we have a circumstantial participle. It's present active participle, again, masculine, plural, nominative, to agree with those bad guys, the subject of the verb. And this hoya indicates that it's causal and that I as speaker vouch for the cause. Since doing, because doing shameful things, because they are doing shameful things. So, those bad guys, the ones who led the good and wise teacher to death, will be harmed, let me tell you, by the gods, since they are doing bad things, shameful things. Okay, whoops. Number 5. Let's see if we can get our pointer back. There we go. Ho tateton alon klepton kai hama pathon sum pantas tus ne anias kaka praten kai me tois the ois thuon eblapte ten pasan koran eu. All right, well, with this one, we have a bunch of participles in attributive position. Ho klepton and pathon, and me thuon. Okay? Now, the me here indicates that these attributive participles are generic rather than particular. Okay? So not that guy over there, the one stealing, but someone who steals, he who steals in general. Okay? So, stealing the stuff of others and at the same time persuading quite all the youths to be doing bad stuff and not sacrificing to the gods. Okay? So, he who is stealing the stuff of others and at the same time persuading quite all the youths to do bad things and not sacrificing to the gods, was he harming the whole country or not? All right, number 6. Thusamen hoya sesos menai. Well, this is a nice short one. We have thusomen, that's the main verb. And that's aorist subjunctive, active, first person plural. So let's make that a hortatory subjunctive. Let's sacrifice. And now here's our participle. It's a circumstantial participle. It's not in attributive position. And we have this hoya to show us that this is a causal participle. And we, as the subject of the sentence, approve this message. All right. Thusomen, let's sacrifice. And now here's our participle. Nominative, plural, feminine, perfect passive. Let's sacrifice since having been saved. Let's sacrifice since we have been saved. Because we have been saved. Number 7. Epede hoi polemioi tein ufulakthesan gephoron elusan, hapantes hoi hoplitai ta hopla elipon en toi pedioi, hos nun gerenen axantes. All right, so here's our subject. Here's our main verb in this first clause. So, and this verb is third person plural, aorist active indicative. And then this here is the direct object. So, tein ufulachthesan gephoron. This participle is in attributive position. You can see it between the tein and the gephoron. And phulakthesan is an aorist passive participle, feminine accusative singular, modifying the bridge. And note, now this is a particular use of the attributive participle, as opposed to the one we had before that had may. This one has u. That shows us it's particular and not generic. All right, so when the enemies destroyed the not guarded bridge, the unguarded bridge. And now here's the subject of our second clause, hapantes hoi hoplitai. And there's our verb, elipon, third person plural, second aorist active indicative. Quite all the hoplites abandoned their weapons on the plain. And now, here is a future active participle with hos. It's nominative, plural, masculine. It's going to agree with these hoplites. And the hos shows us that it indicates cause or purpose, but not on the authority of the person speaking. Okay? So with the intention of, in order to, what are you going to say? Keep the peace, now at any rate. So the whole thing all together, when the enemies destroyed the unguarded bridge, quite all the hoplites abandoned their weapons on the plain in order to keep the peace, now at any rate. All right, number 8. Ente eu politeu mene cora utoi erge tudemu hostratos. Al hupo ton polemion blaptointa hoi politai hapantes, tus gerontas entais oikias lipantes, hupo ton strategon etatonta hos tus estengen hekontas fulak zalmenoi. That is a really long sentence. All right, and I made a mistake up there, so let me fix that because it's going to make me crazy. There we go. All right, so here we go. Let's kill off this first prepositional phrase. In the, now, present passive, I think, participle. In the well-governed land, in the well-governed country. Okay, and now hostratos is the subject. The army does not, let me tell you, or was not, let me tell you, ruling the people. Our erke is the third person singular imperfect indicative active of arco. And remember, it takes a genitive. So, in the well-governed land, the army was not, let me tell you, ruling the people. Okay, now, but if, and we have a conditional sentence here. Blaptointa is third person plural, present optative. Either middle or passive. I think it's passive because here's our genitive of personal agent. So we have one optative. And then we have etatonta, right? So that is an imperfect indicative. So this has got to be a past general condition. But if, let me tell you, there's our ge, the citizens were being harmed by the enemies, they all were being arranged by the generals. And now we have a little circumstantial participle phrase here. Lipontes, second aorist, masculine nominative plural, having abandoned the old men in their houses. Okay, and finally, let's look at this last bit here. Hos plus the future middle participle. So when we have hos with a circumstantial participle, that indicates cause or purpose. In order to guard, tus hekontas. All right, well, this is a present active participle. But remember, the present of heiko has perfect meaning. The guys who have come into the land. That was a long sentence. Let's start back at the beginning. In the well-governed land, the army wasn't ruling the people, let me tell you. But if the citizens were being harmed by the enemies, they all, having left the old men in the houses, they all were being arranged by their generals in order to guard against, to be on guard against those who came into the land, those who have come into the land. Tas me douleusas didaxe de ta biblia, ta hup agathon poieton graphomena. So here, the main verb is didaxe, third person singular, future indicative active. And its subject has got to be ta biblia. So that's neuter plural. And remember, neuter plurals take a singular verb. And we have more about ta biblia here. Ta biblia ta graphomena. This is a present, either middle or passive participle. I think it's neuter, nominative, plural, agreeing with ta biblia. And it's got to be passive here, right? Because we've got this genitive of personal agent. So, indeed, the books, the ones being written by good poets, will teach tas me douleusas. So this is a present active participle, feminine accusative plural. You can see it's in attributive position and it's got this may. So this must be a generic use of the attributive participle. Remember before we had one with oo, that had to be a particular use. So this has got to be a generic use. So women who are not being slaves. So put the whole thing together and we have indeed the books, the ones being written by good poets, will teach women who are not being slaves. Whoops. Finally, ho strategos, kai per taxas tu stratiotas para te thalaton, homos uk ethelen ekenus hex stadia es machen agagain. So here's our subject, ho strategos. And there's our main verb, ethelen. That's third person singular, imperfect indicative active. And now it's got a homos with it. And if you take a look at taxas, which is an aorist active participle, nominative, masculine, singular, it's got a chi pair with it. So what we must have here is a concessive use of the circumstantial participle. We've got the chi pair, we've got the homos. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. The general, although having arranged the soldiers by the sea, nevertheless was not willing, and here's our second aorist active infinitive, was not willing to lead those guys, to lead them for 6 stades, accusative of duration of, or of extent of space, for 6 stades into battle. The general, although having arranged the soldiers by the sea, nevertheless was not willing to lead them 6 stades into battle. The end.